Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey there, meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you again. It is Thursday evening at about 9:37, so to speak. Is that what it says? Yeah. Temperature right around, what do we got, 30 degrees and dropping. So, yeah, we've got a cold front that's come our way, unfortunately. We had a nice, brief thaw, and then that kind of came to an end. And we're going to have more cold temperatures filling in tonight and for tomorrow, so it's going to be gross again. Arctic air is back. Cindy, thank you for the stars kicking off our Facebook party, so appreciate your participation in that and a little love that you're sending me. I will get a cup of coffee on you. You know, actually, back then in the day, you could get a cup of coffee for a penny. I think it was a dime or a nickel. My grandparents used to do it all the time. Sometimes it was free, depending on where you went. But those were the days. We're not in those days anymore. All right, let's take a look here. First things first, you guys on YouTube, thanks for checking in. Real quick, I did 405. You can hear it out there howling. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit windy here in the metro and elsewhere, and we'll show you the map here in a second where all that wind is coming from. You guys on Rumble, thanks for tuning in, and of course on the Facebook feeds, both on the private group page, you can join for being a supporter of AT's weather, and also on the main group page, and I'll post that link here in the comment sections. You can join the Facebook broadcast channel. That way I'll notify whenever I go live. That way you won't miss it. You'll be on time, not late to the party. Annette, thank you for the stars. And you can just join that. Let's see. Nissy or Nikki? It's probably Nikki without the K. Or Nicey even. You got me intrigued now. I've never seen that name before. Cindy, thank you for the stars. So let's take a look here at what's happening out there currently. Wind. I'm 30.4 degrees and dropping. Winds are gusting well over 20 miles per hour, up to 30. And they'll be gusting into the 40s at times here tonight. So it'll be a very windy night out there. So just kind of get used to it. That's not going to change any. And then we have some big changes come in for the latter part of our weekend. Dan, thank you for your following on YouTube. He's a brand new follower. So everybody welcome Dan Corder on YouTube. And I'm glad you like the style. So I give it to you direct, straight. No hype, no drama, just science. I'm all about the science. Let's take a look at some science. All right, temperatures. How about that? We'll start with those science numbers. Negative 20s up here in Canada. So this is where our cold air mass is coming from. So it was up around Yellowknife yesterday and is now oozing on down south, now pushing into Great Falls, Montana. They got into the negative teens there. This colder air is zipping on the eastern slopes of the Rockies, already into the central and northern plains. You see a lot of goose eggs on the map. Those are actual air temperatures. So you don't have to go too far. And you got some single digits here into Kansas, and those will be working their way toward Oklahoma for later on tonight. So that is our rude awakening. Now this morning, wasn't so bad. I mean, almost balmy, would you say? We started off into the low 20s and some teens across the state, some 30s way down south. This afternoon was a nice rebound. Oh, thank goodness that this front came in a little later in the day. It allowed us to warm up, so we were able to hit the 40s here in the greater metropolitan area of Oklahoma City and also Tulsa. Up north, still mid-40s here, and then down south and southwest, can you believe this? Some 50s, and do you see these numbers here? 60, 61, 65? Springtime in the panhandle of Oklahoma. Everybody run there real quick. Well, just kidding, because that's not the place you want to be right now. They got winds, again, sustained up around 20 to 25 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour here over this part of the state. Can you spot where the cold front is? Yeah. See, it's kind of this darker shade from green to yellow. That is your cold front quickly working through, evident by the big strong gust of wind out there. And you can see the temperatures are falling quickly into the freezing point or below. Behind it, like I said, it may have been 60-something today out in the panhandle, but now it's 18. So it was just kidding. You don't want to go there. Anyway, this cold weather is coming this way, so you ain't gonna be able to escape it. Let's put it that way. So it's all moving on in for tonight. So this is our reinforcing Arctic air shot here for the end of the week. That's gonna set us up for the weekend. What else is setting us up for the weekend? The upper level pattern of the jet stream is gonna still bring in that little southwest flow aloft, and with it, these bright colors you see on the map, that's all lift in the atmosphere that's making its way into Oklahoma. So the first wave that will bring some cloudiness will be on Sunday morning. It won't be enough to produce precipitation. Technically, in theory, I guess it would be up around, 15,000 feet or so. It evaporates. So we're not going to get anything on the ground level from this, but we'll get the clouds that will be generated from it. But behind that, look at all this, and it's dark red. This is an extreme lift coming in to our region. And I warned you, I said, when we get into the window of the short-term models, the high-resolution models, we're going to be able to get much more specific on the forecast for the ice storm that's coming up for the weekend. And just on time, just on cue, the NAM comes in and paints Armageddon. So how about that? I had a feeling that was going to happen. So if everybody was kind of, standoffish on the ice, they won't be after this model run comes in. So let's take a look here for the midday on Sunday and Sunday afternoon. A lot of that little bright areas of color works its way through Texas and Oklahoma and over here across more coming. So there's the trough axis out here. So we've got unlimited rounds of rain that will occur, and not just for the short term. We're talking all the way into next week, probably most of next week. We have off and on rain as this pattern kind of stays with us. But by Monday morning, still plenty of lift here across Texas and Oklahoma, and even more out here. But we're really concerned with the timing is through the first half of Monday. After that, it can rain all at once because it won't matter, as temperature should be above freezing by that point in time. So what's changed in the model data that is getting me all excited? Well, first off, it shows a much greater area of lift in the atmosphere, which is, I expected that, so that's nothing new. But it's the dew point values. This is the key. When you're talking about winter weather and you're talking about ice, very important key factor element that cannot be overlooked. So as we look into the dew point numbers, we drop into the single digits, even some negative numbers as we head into Friday afternoon. So that's some very cold Arctic air, very dry. So it works its way down here to Texas and Mexico. Remember, that Arctic air went deep, and that was one of the key factors of setting us up for the weekend. You got to get it deep so it doesn't have a chance to erode if you want frozen precipitation. So by Saturday afternoon, we're still into the single digits for most of the state, even down to parts of Texas. Now, we will start to moderate that dry air a little bit Sunday morning down here into Texas, into the teens again. We're going to have some pockets probably close to the low teens. Otherwise, still plenty of single digits out there. Now, the reason why this is important, I'm going to explain to you in the science here in a minute, but you don't want dew point values in single digits when it starts to rain. All right, so we get into the afternoon hours. As it does rain, these dew point values will increase. So if you notice midday Sunday, we're starting to get this little increase here. Now this is evident of rainfall developing because the rainfall actually bring those numbers up by adding moisture to the ground level where we live and breathe, which is where these numbers are located. All right, so we head into the afternoon on Sunday. Ours starts to come up to around 18 degrees, 24 down around Lawton, still into the teens in Dallas-Fort Worth. So you kind of see that fetch of original moisture coming in for late afternoon on Sunday into Sunday evening. Now, as we head into midnight Sunday, dew point values are still into the teens in Dallas, low 20s here in Oklahoma City, mid-teens in Tulsa, which means any precipitation at all that falls, guess what? It's below freezing. Until these numbers get to 32, it's all ice, baby. All right, so you head into Monday morning. We are looking at the upper 20s and mid-20s across most of Oklahoma for dew point values. Still, Dallas-Fort Worth, they are technically still right at the freezing point or below. Bad news for DFW. So that means an ice storm will be underway for Dallas-Fort Worth all the way up through Oklahoma, and it is going to be treacherous traveling conditions for the Sunday night, Monday morning time frame. That has not changed since my forecast on Sunday, so woo! I like to see consistency. Obviously, I like to get the forecast right, obviously, but I do not like the outcome, just so we're clear. All right, so that front is rolling through the state tonight. Like I said, through the midnight hour, sustained winds up around 25 to 30 miles an hour at times. We'll have higher gusts than that. I'll show you in a minute. But it does calm down by the time we head into Friday afternoon. So if you want a relief from the wind, wait till then. After lunchtime, it'll start to happen. And then on Saturday, pretty decent day with the winds. A little windy out in the panhandle of both Oklahoma and Texas. up around 20, 25 miles per hour for the most part. And then on Sunday, now this is a change in the data. I don't like to see this either, but here's Sunday noontime to Sunday afternoon to Sunday evening. These sustained winds up around 15 to 20 miles per hour. And then as we head into the evening hours on Sunday, the winds still stay up around midnight. That's around 15 again, maybe gusts around 20 at times overnight on Sunday across central, northern, and even little pockets of eastern Oklahoma. And the wind gusts is kind of a little bit more important when you factor those in. So let me show you those as well. So this is the wind gust across the area. So they're going to have over 40 miles per hour here for this evening. And then overnight tonight, the biggest, strongest winds down here in southern Oklahoma, well, they may approach up close to 50 at times. Otherwise, there's those winds in the morning hours on Friday, so into the 30s. And then they'll die off, like I said, by late afternoon. And then as we fast forward this into Sunday afternoon, this is what I did not want to see. I did not want to see winds picking up. So there's Sunday morning. There's some gusts up around 30, 25 in the north. By afternoon, still gusts close to 30 miles per hour across many areas of the state. Sunday evening, gusts to 30. And then even down here to North Texas, some gusts 25 or so by Sunday night. Now, Monday morning, it calms down a little bit in this area because of the heavy precipitation. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because if there's any ice accumulations, any gusts of wind will help to cause additional power outages from that. But you can see there is at least a little bit of trend here where the winds do calm down during kind of the heaviest part of the event Monday morning. So let's hope that trend continues. We don't want it to be any windier than just a light, gentle breeze. So temperatures, like we talked about, cooling down tonight, tomorrow morning into the teens, close to the single digits along the border. As we head into Friday afternoon, we rebound you into the 20s. Looks like there might be, let's go to, where was I? 3 o'clock? Back that one up, right there. So there is going to be probably some areas above freezing down here across the far southwestern corner of the state. All right, on Saturday, start you off in the morning hours. Once again, back into the teens. Could be some single digits squeezing in, especially here in northeastern Oklahoma. By the afternoon, rebound you back into the 20s across the state. Looks like some 30s, low 30s here along the Red River Valley on into North Texas. So it's a good cold shot, but it's not as cold as our last one that we experienced, which is some good news. Now, here's the bad news I have for you. All right, we're going to start you off Sunday morning, teens to low 20s. Okay, there's going to be a lot of cloud cover building up on Sunday. We're not going to see a whole lot of sun. A lot less sun actually than I originally had hoped that we would see. And so that's going to prevent the temperatures from really warming up much. Now the models are still going to try to get us just around or slightly above freezing. And that's going to be a stretch because we're going to start out in the low to mid 20s and you don't have any sun with an Arctic air mass. I don't see how you get much warmer, during the day, more than 10 degrees. So yeah, you still get some insulation just from the solar part of it from even through the clouds. But with those factored in there, it should keep things on the cooler side. And indeed, the model struggles to get us to 33 here in Oklahoma City and Tulsa by the afternoon, where those clouds are even thicker and denser and come in sooner for the lower level clouds. It stays into the upper 20s here in southern Oklahoma. So needless to say, it'll be a cold day on Sunday. Now, when the precipitation starts, Sunday evening, very, very light, but enough to where, let's put it this way, anything that falls from the sky will flash freeze into an ice skating rink, no matter how light it is. Keep that in mind. So here's Sunday evening, where temperatures, all this blue area is all around the freezing point or less. In other words, 32 degrees or less, which means the entire body of Oklahoma just about, and even to much of North Texas, including down around the Dallas-Fort Worth area from Sunday night. There's midnight, and then there's 3 a.m. on Monday, and then there is 6 a.m. on Monday. So still the entire state pretty much below freezing, all the way down still to Dallas-Fort Worth. So that is where your ice accumulation mess is going to be in that blue shading. Now, we talked about the winds kicking up. So wind chill values will be down around the negative numbers here in the northeastern quadrant of the state for tomorrow morning. But by the afternoon, they will be a little bit better as those winds start to die down. But of course, temperatures are still on the cold side. So you need to bundle up, make sure you dress appropriately in plenty of layers. We talked about the temperatures getting down into Texas. So let's take a look how far south this cold air goes. Let me go to Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, they're into the 20s all the way down here into the Lone Star State. Single digits up here in Missouri and into Kansas. So let's just zip on through. So this Saturday morning, a little bit of a rebound down there, but it gets cold again in the overnight period. So Sunday morning, we're starting out into the 20s and some 30s in Texas. Now as we head into the midday Sunday period, look at this pockets of cold air stretching in this region, that they never quite got above the freezing point, and they're going to still see some precipitation develop about this time here late afternoon. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a minute. But as it gets later in the day, we cool back down, and so you see those little pockets of blue. So that is where your freezing rain is going to be for Sunday evening and a Sunday night. Now, as we head into the overnight period, Sunday night and a Monday morning, you can see how a lot of this has moderated here across Texas. And models are, they're not going to be too specific, but they're trying to at least warm up parts of this above freezing. But the general line is snakes about like that. So again, Dallas-Fort Worth is right on the cusp of the southern end of this mess. Now, the key, though, is what we call wet bulb temperatures. So the wet bulb temperature is when the temperature and the dew point meet in the middle. So that's when you have complete total saturation of the atmosphere, and your number cannot get lower than dew point. So that's the stoppage. That's the stop block. So when it cools, when the rain happens, it will cool the surface temperature down, and it will bring the dew point up. Why? Because you're adding moisture. So you're cooling the air, but you're also adding moisture, hence the numbers collide. Where they collide, it must be 32 degrees or less for freezing rain to occur and to accumulate on elevated surfaces. So let's just snapshot it at Monday morning. I'm going to put this little cursor in. We're going to pick the wet bulb temperature for that time frame. And we're going to see who all, in this particular case, would be under the gun for ice. I'm going to just pick some spots here on the map. There's Tulsa. Now, you might be able to read that little number. It's an active readout number. It says 27 degrees. Oklahoma City says 27. Out here in western Oklahoma, it's in the 20s. Northern Oklahoma, it's in the 20s. Southern Oklahoma says 28. Southeast Oklahoma, 26. Across Red River, let's just go on down to Dallas, cut to the chase. 31.43 degrees, if you will. North and west of Dallas, still 31, 30. So the point being is, where you basically see this little white dashed line, that is the wet bulb frozen temperature. In other words, 32 degrees. So that means this is where the ice would be still occurring by Monday morning, assuming this model is 100% on it and doesn't waver over the next few runs. But that's kind of jives with the talk that we've had all week long. So it's good to see our short-term high-resolution model come in and back me up on the forecast. So let's take a look here for Saturday into Sunday. Now, the big part of why we're getting so much precipitation is our precipitable water, which is how much water you can squeeze out of it. Think about a sponge. If you had an invisible sponge hanging up there over your head and you went there to wring it all out, how much would fall? Well, in the brown spots that we just saw here on the map, let me go back over there. Where did I lose it? Sunday morning. Let's go Sunday morning. In the brown spots for Sunday morning, not going to be able to squeeze out much out of that sponge. But down here in the southern Texas, yeah, you can start to squeeze out a little bit of moisture. But as the colors change from green to blue, now you're squeezing out a lot of moisture. And that moves here into Sunday night, Monday morning, right here in the south central, southeastern, northeastern Oklahoma, and all the way down to Texas. So that means the atmosphere is going to be very moist with this system. And moist air and temperatures below freezing do not mix. You know what else doesn't mix? How about surface temperatures? They don't mix either. Right now, we've got them into the low to mid 30s. So these are going to cool another couple of degrees because of the cold air that's coming in tonight, tomorrow, and hanging around for the weekend, which means our road temperatures and our ground temperature will be at, or maybe in some cases below freezing, which means any precipitation at all hits the ground and you're going to have ice. So how in the world are we going to get ice? Doesn't make any sense. I thought you said it was going to rain. What are you talking about? All right, here we go. Get out your pencils. Class is in session. So what happens is, we got our cloud layer, we have our precipitation, ice crystals and snow that grows in this zone where temperatures are well below zero. Super cool temperatures. All right. Well, as they fall downward from the cloud toward the ground, the atmosphere starts to warm up a little bit. Now, we go from the mid levels of the atmosphere around minus 8 degrees Celsius, and then we get into this warm layer where we end up at about 5 degrees plus. In other words, plus 5 degrees Celsius. That is above freezing. So on this little chart here, this little line is the freezing line, 0 degree line. So if you're to the right of that line, you are warm. If you're left of the line, you are cold. So watch this little snow. So as the snow comes down, it gets to this little warm zone right here, and look what happens. The snow melts, all right? It forms into rain. Now, normally that'd be great, but what happens is, right here at the surface where we live and breathe, about let's call it 1,000 or so feet off the ground, 2,000 feet, we get below zero, all right? below 0 Celsius. So that's below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's just call it like 25, 26 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, as these raindrops, remember, because now we've got that warm air right here, right? Well, as the raindrops fall through that warm air, guess what? They then hit the ground as what would be normally rain. But because this last several hundred feet are below 0 and our surface temperature is below 0 Celsius, all this stuff turns into a coating of ice. And so that's what you see on this graphic. This is all ice. Another way to visualize this is this guy right here. So it depends on how thick the warm air zone is. If the warm air zone, we'll do it something like this. And it kind of fades away. Say it truncates here. So if the warm layer is really, really thick all the way to the surface, you get just old rain. But in our case, we're going to have that little thin layer of cold air, and what happens is it hits that, and then boom. So it falls through the warm layer and then melts into rain, which then falls and freezes on cold surfaces, coating them in ice. That means your cars, your trees, bridges, overpasses, grass, you name it. Now, if the cold air was much thicker or the warm air much thinner, then you get sleet, which are those little ice pellets that fall. I do not believe we'll see any sleet with this. I believe it will be in this configuration, so in other words, all freezing rain. And it's certainly not going to get any snow out of this, as that's just not going to happen. So that's how you want to look at it visually. If you want to get geeky and technical, and you want to be a meteorologist, you can do the top-down precipitation type forecast method, where you look at temperatures, critical layers in the atmosphere. So you can start from left to right on the chart, and you look at how the upper level cloud layer, as ice crystals going to be forming. Yes. Is there a warm layer, maximum temperature expected? And then you come down here to the warm layer. Is it equal to or greater than 3 degrees Celsius? Yeah, when I showed you that graphic, it was 5 degrees. Well, that means total melting, the liquid water. So that just means we're going to have official rain at that point. Now the question is minimum cold layer temperature. So how cold is it going to be that this water layer starts to go through? Well, we're going to be in this category up here, which is between 0 and minus 11 degrees Celsius, with the surface temperature equal to or less than 0 degrees Celsius, less than 32. So then you come over here and you go, okay, so what does that mean? Do we have it thick enough, like 2,500 feet or greater, for that cold temperature layer? We don't. It's shallower than that. If we did, we'd go to sleep. We don't, so now we go to freeze and rain. So that is the top-down forecast method. Anybody could use it at home. All you gotta do is look at the numbers on the forecast soundings, and there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You just were smarter than your average TV weather guy. All right, so let me see what else we got here for you. Well, I'm gonna show you some cool stuff on the vertical here in a minute. But let's go back here to the charts and the graphs. I'm gonna show you what it looks like here when you put in the colors on the map. All right, so looking at the NAM model here, we'll show you the developing precipitation out here into Texas by Sunday morning. And then we go into the afternoon period. You start to see more light rain developing out here. And you see these little areas of pink. That's where the model's indicating, oh, wait a minute, some of this is going to be some freezing drizzle and light freezing rain. So by 6 o'clock, you see that blossoming out here into northern Texas and getting a little bit heavier, especially down here into the southwestern corner of Oklahoma. So you guys need a little action, the first wave, through the first part of Sunday evening, and that will continue to expand and drift to the north, well in Oklahoma City and points northward by midnight, all the way down south the I-35 corridor, overnight Sunday, pressing eastward into east central Oklahoma, heading up to Tulsa by that time. Heavy freezing rain at this point from Dallas-Fort Worth into this little area. And as we head into the morning hours, still freezing rain in this region right here. Remember the wet bulb temperature, if you can visualize that? Remember the line, something like that? So that's that wet bulb temperature of 32 degrees or less. And so there's a model painting red on the map for freezing rain. That moves on off into Arkansas and Missouri as we head into Monday morning into midday Monday. Now, this model doesn't go that far because it's a short-term model, so it won't go into Monday afternoon. But by lunchtime Monday, this pink area will start to turn over to green and move out of the state, meaning it's about a 12-hour sweet spot window. If you really want to call the heaviest of the precipitation, which would be, let's call it late Sunday evening through mid-morning Monday. That's the sweet spot for freezing rain accumulation. So about that period of time. You have to look at your QPF, in other words, how much rain can fall out of the system with those high precipitable water numbers. And right now, the NAM has about 4/10 down here in southern Oklahoma, 3 or 4/10 around the Lawton area, just south and east of Oklahoma City, around the Norman area, about 3/10, up toward Tulsa, 1/4 of an inch of precipitation. Now remember, this is going to be all ice. So you're talking about 1/4 to maybe half an inch of ice already in the model data just through Monday morning. It does not add the next few hours after that. In Texas, it already has 0.6 to 0.7 of precipitation from Dallas-Fort Worth here in this little sweet spot along I-35. So that would be, again, a catastrophic ice event there, up around more than half an inch of ice. That's a lot of power outages. Now, what do the other models say, for example? And we can look at those and just see what they look like. And let me refresh just in case any of the new data came in while I was loading this up. This is the Canadian model. It has a lot of heavy accumulations down here as well, and into Texas. That's bad news. Now, normally it gets a little excited. I would lean toward the NAM than I would the Canadian on this. But also, it shows the hard line in the sand of that I-44 corridor. The Canadian just has been sticking with that. It will not budge. The NAM still likes that, although it's a little bit to the west of some significant moisture and precipitation. Icon model, again, it kind of likes that I-44 corridor, but also some pretty decent amounts, up to 0.6 here in southeast Oklahoma. There's 0.75, it could be an inch of ice. The GFS also has anywhere from a half inch. It actually moved it well west with a hot spot here in south central Oklahoma of 0.6. So it's going to be a large area of at least a quarter of an inch of ice in many regions, and probably isolated amounts higher than that. It could be half an inch the way things are looking. That's the way they're trending anyway. Let's see. And then there's the European has been really lame on this system and really disappointed. But this is the control. When I looked at the ensemble version of it, which takes the mean, it actually knows what's going on. But for whatever reason, it's picking an outlier to what it thinks it really should happen, which now that I saw that data explains why it hasn't really been paying attention like it normally does. So I'm okay with that now that I know what it's doing. But let's take a look at the NAM for the output for the ice accumulations. Again, there's almost half an inch in these little areas down here in the southern third of the state. A little hot spot it likes between Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and Dallas-Fort Worth, just a mess down here. That's 0.6 of pure ice. That'd be horrible down there. The Canadian is going to go nuts with it as always. Rule of thumb, you divide by 2 on the highest amounts, and it's going about an inch here in southern Oklahoma, 0.9. There you go. So still the half inch of ice. The American model GFS also has about half an inch to 0.5 or 0.6 in some of these areas. Here just eastern Norman, there's 0.4. So it's not completely full in here because the model has problems with ice, but the take home is the general area. Let's see. And then the European, like I said, this is the version that doesn't have the accumulation. If I were to, I'm not even going to waste my time with it. Point being is the other models know what's up. So when we speak about that, let's talk about amounts when we do look kind of an ensemble look to it and just pick some points. So this is Oklahoma City, for example, and a lot of these members are up here in the a few hundredths to about 1/10 of an inch. So in other words, that's not out of the question. I have 1/10 of an inch. This is on the SREF. And if we look at, let me pick Dallas. I think Dallas had a little bit more. Yeah, they were around 0.2 of an inch is where their average ended up being, but some outliers up here around a half inch. And then Tulsa, again, this is just through Monday morning. They were only at about a few hundredths up to about 1/10. So that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. Remember, it's exact one little point, so it doesn't take a look at the entire area. And sometimes one point could be heavy, and then the point next to it can be really light. But this is just kind of an idea of what's going on in the region. If you look at the ice accumulation on another group of global models, they're all over the place on ice accumulations down here in Dallas. But most of these are up around at least a couple of tenths. If we do the total, let's see, yeah, there's 0.2, and up here on the top end, 0.4. And these are the global models that didn't really have a good grasp at the amounts. It's the high resolution NAM that really liked it. And if we do look at the NAM, let's do that vertically. And what will we do here? Yeah, we'll show you this. Okay, so on the left side of your screen, this is the accumulation of freezing rain, the red. And if you total this number in Dallas alone, it's about half an inch. So if I were to, let's see if I can change this. Yeah, we'll do this right here. All right, this little red line, you barely make it out. This little red line, if you follow it all the way to the right on this scale, it goes right here, which is at half an inch of precipitation. So that would be half an inch of ice down in Dallas-Fort Worth. A lot of omega. That's all this little red right here. There's a snow growth layer, plenty of moisture. That's a mess. All we were waiting on to see is, are they going to be right at freezing? Are they going to just warm a little above after midnight, or are they going to stay below freezing from Sunday, early evening, late afternoon through just about into Monday morning. The NAM says yes, they will. All right, let's go to Oklahoma City. How are they looking? They being we and me. And they are very, very light on the precipitation. So there's a tenth of an inch of freezing rain for Sunday night into Monday morning. Still, though, you got the omega, not as strong, but you do have the snow growth layer, and you do have a lot of moisture on the chart. So it'll be misleading. This is not one of those events where you have to say, oh, it's only a couple of tenths, or oh, it's only a tenth. It won't matter. Remember, any moisture at all, it's an ice skating rink. You got to keep that in mind. If it drizzles, it's an ice skating rink. If it spits, it's an ice skating rink. Can't state that strong enough. So there'll probably be a lot of accidents and closures on Monday morning as a result. Here's Tulsa in the morning hours, just through daybreak. It's got 2 tenths. Again, this is a point-click sounding. So remember, if we look at that map, you know how the model tries to pick hot spots, and it may pick a hot spot right here. And if you do like what I did, you pick a spot that's just next to it, it won't capture the hot spot. It captures a weak area. And they're not going to be that good to try exactly where the specific hot spot will be. The general idea is you look at that and go, okay, there will be some isolated areas in the zone that do get that amount. But in this case, I'm just showing you Tulsa and Oklahoma City to show you how that looks in the vertical and why you're getting the precipitation that you are getting. And if you look here on the forecast sounding, I've zipped her to, this is Monday morning time frame. Remember that graphic I showed you earlier? This is the same idea. We can do it for you this way. This little line right here. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. It's funny how things just hit your brain when you say other words. It just triggers some memory. Why would I ever think that? I have no idea, but it just did, because that's what we did. We were kids. We'd sing that song. All right, anyway, so there's the freezing line from 0 degrees Celsius. And remember, our graphic, if we're to the right of that line, this is where the rain happens, so it's all pure rain. And then we go back left of that line. We go back into the freezing cold air here at the lower levels. And here's the 0 degrees, and we're way over here, which is minus 3 degrees at the surface. So that means, we're going to be in the mid-upper 20s here across, pick Tulsa, for example. And this layer right here is very shallow, super shallow. So it's only cold enough to let it splash and freeze on contact. It is not thick enough to reform it into sleet or anything else. So that is what we have. That's the profile you got in in Tulsa. Oklahoma City is very similar. Matter of fact, our thickness of the air mass is even thinner, only 50 millibars. Woof! That is, man, it's like barely hanging on. Technically, it's a little thicker, but it's a slope differently. All right, let's go to DFW. Same idea. Woof, very thin. So this is why a lot of times the models will miss, those global models. That's why the GFS misses. It doesn't understand this last 50 millibars of, 500 feet, like 500 meters. It has a tough time to figuring out what happens in 500 meters from the ground up. Its steps are too big. The resolution isn't high enough to cut it in enough pieces to get your resolution up. Anyway, so that's what's happened in the vertical in that situation. All right, let's go back to our final look here at the maps. So the winter storm severity index, and these are some experimental stuff that the government's working on, has ice accumulation in the moderate category as an impact. This is based off of some older data, but at least it does show that there is obviously a significant impact in this area outlined before. And the edging, obviously, we can work with that. We can shove it a little south, a little bit west. What it's trying to say in the older data, there was a bullseye here and a bullseye here. When I did my lunchtime live at lunch, yes, that was the case. But the evening data has said, yeah, that's fine, but we're going to put little bullseyes in this area too. So it's going to expand a little bit. So we'll look for that in the new updated runs. Now, temperatures, 20s, next couple of days, during the day, teens at night. Same thing on Sunday, starts you off in the teens, upper teens, low 20s. We will not hit 37 given the way things are going. We'll struggle to hit 33 because the clouds roll in too soon, and we won't see much sun. And then we're going to get the light, probably starting off as light freezing drizzle and some sprinkles. And so by Sunday evening, and I can't tell you the exact start time yet. All I can tell you is very late afternoon, early evening is where the window opens. So from that point forward, it's fair game. When we get into Saturday, I should be able to tell you the exact start time. But otherwise, because that's kind of stuff is very micro forecasted. So it's, you're talking about really getting specific. In this situation, yeah, that's going to be difficult. Okay, so let me see. I think I showed you everything I wanted to show you. So that was a lot to throw at you, but it was some really good information. And hopefully it was helpful. It teaches you why things are happening, where they are, and why they are. And that way you can understand, right? So let me zip through here real quick. By the way, Kathy, thank you for the stars. And Darla. Who else? Brigitta's again. Beverly. Julie. Angelique. Leslie, giving you guys some shout outs. Christina, thank you. Dana, or Joel, and Carrie. Awesome. Larry, you're welcome. So that's what I have here for you. So Brian, you must be really late to the party. Yes. Oh, that is ice. Where you been, man? I've been talking about this since Sunday. Yeah, we got ice coming. So don't get lost in the semantics about is it an ice storm? Well, you tell me. If we call it a snowstorm, we call it a windstorm, we call it a rainstorm, we call it a thunderstorm. Everything's got a storm in it when it's a storm. So yeah, it's an ice storm. Now, will we get an ice storm warning, which is a very specific categorization event that a National Weather Service will issue as a warning and alert. That's on a short-term scale, and those wouldn't come out until Saturday anyway. So they're not going to go, not mention ice storm at all, and then give you the impression that it's no big deal, and then at the last minute go, ice storm warning. That's not how that works. So yeah, it's an ice storm because it is all ice. Now, when will it end? If you missed earlier, by midday Monday, looks like the temperatures will be warming up above freezing across pretty much most of Oklahoma. There may be the northeastern counties, another hour or two, but that should unfold, and then that would expand into Arkansas and Missouri. So even there, temperature should moderate by at least early to mid-afternoon to hopefully get everybody above freezing. A little more of a close call up there, so I don't want to get too specific in that region this far out, but it'll be warming up from south to north with time. So that's the easy call. So in other words, the first place to thaw would be North Texas right after daybreak. So the models have them below freezing through 6 o'clock in the morning, through 7 o'clock, and then probably every hour after that, it starts to erode that freezing point, and then all of a sudden they're getting to 32, then they're getting to 33, then they get into 34, and that trend works its way north into Oklahoma. So then we start to warm up on the southern parts of the state. So what happens is all the ice that we've had at that point will then start to melt off all these elevated surfaces. So good news with that is that would help to eliminate the load that can cause power outages from the trees and the lines, that kind of thing. So if the power outages are going to happen, they'll have to happen during that 6 to 12 hour window, because after that, it all melts off, all of that, and then it's just back to a cold rain or no rain for the rest of the day, depending on if the system is already moving away. And then we rebound in temperatures. So that's the good news in this event. Otherwise, it looks like substantial precipitation. So in other words, it should be heavy enough to cause some power outages, and it's certainly enough to cause widespread travel problems. So numerous accidents. So it's one of those deals where if it's a skating rink, you're not going to be able to drive on it. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's four-wheel drive, doesn't matter whatever it is. If it's a layer of nothing but ice, good luck. So just be prepared for some auto hockey. Hope you got insurance, because you're going to need it. But if you can hang out and just kind of wait, by lunchtime, it should be safe to go for most of the state. So that's the deal. You have to play it by ear. You'll have to check in and watch temperatures. So I'll do a live at some point. Monday, probably noontime, my normal time, and then I don't know if I'll be able to get up Monday morning in time. Depends on, because I'll be going late, probably Sunday night, doing this and give you the update. So, but you can use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. You can use my website, aarontotalweather.com. It's got all kinds of weather stuff on there for temperatures and maps you can look at. Or you can turn on your TV and watch the guys on news and watch them hem and haw and tap dance and show you empty streets or show you some accidents or whatever it is that they're going to do for 6 hours of wall-to-wall coverage. I'm just glad I don't have to do that no more. Oh, that was the worst part of that job, was the wall-to-wall coverage. Nonsense. Let's see. Let's see, what time is it? It is 10:16. So a couple of new models have come in while we were talking. So let me see if what they look like. Okay, so we were looking at the NAM. Let me go to By the way, I'll show the Canadian as well, just on the how it has the precipitation that broke out. So you see that breaks out kind of North Texas, Western Texas, and Oklahoma through midnight, and then it goes to the morning hours of Monday. If there's those little heavy streaks that it likes, kind of keeps the metro here on the northwestern fringe. All right, so let's go to, let's see, that was the NAM, the icon. We can take a look at that one. There's the German model. It's actually did pretty good with the snow, and so far it's been doing pretty good with the ice. So there's this big blow up for Sunday afternoon. There's your hint at stuff starting to develop at 6 o'clock, I should say. So afternoon, technically, I guess it's evening. And then during the evening, it just blows up from 6 p.m. to midnight here with some heavy stuff across North Texas, southern Oklahoma, and there's your Arkansas, Missouri. And there's a big hot spot down here through the daybreak hours on Monday, and then there's midday Monday. We can see how it's changing to green, which and yellow, which means the ice is over. It means temperatures have warmed. Still some pockets here in the north and east, and then up into Missouri, but otherwise improving conditions. And then by afternoon, looks like pretty much all of Arkansas, all of Oklahoma, a good chunk of Missouri has gotten above freezing. But here's that little indication here that may not ever be everybody, and that's why I said I don't want to go that far on a limb on this. So there might be some areas that stay at or below freezing in that area to continue with the ice, but otherwise the storm does move on out. Let's see. Let's go to, let's see what else we got. Let's do the GFS. For fun, the American model. I never know what to expect with this one just because it's notoriously goofy. All right, so there's Sunday evening, so it actually has some pretty good freezing rain, the west side of Dallas, up into southern Oklahoma by 9 p.m. It expands up here by midnight, a little hot spot around the Lawton area, and then up here around Tulsa, points south and east, and almost to Dallas. It brings that freezing line pretty much right through Dallas-Fort Worth, so it moderates them. But again, that's expected because this model will be an error. But the take-home will be the timing. So it keeps the freezing rain off and on through this area through the morning hours. And then there's the mid-morning, and then there's lunchtime. So lunchtime, it erodes all the cold air, kind of keeps that sweet spot over here in Missouri and Arkansas again for the late afternoon. All right, and that's the American model. So far, knock on wood, now the NAM does not go out that far. So the global models continue to preach what they've been preaching, which is a midday warm-up, no problem. The NAM, which would have a better answer to that, does not extend that many hours out. It's a short-term model. And if it were to come back and say, oh no, you hold on another few more hours, well, it might do that. But with a lot of warm air advection, I'd err on the side that it's still going to thaw and keep it positive. The European model that came out earlier this afternoon, we can look at it. The new run for this one won't come out till about midnight. And I don't know about you, but we ain't going to be hanging on till midnight to wait for this one. So we'll look at this older run. Let's see here. So there's an expansion. There's some echoes, light stuff, kind of hints that something might start going in the Sunday evening time frame, but by midnight it starts to really get it going. There's overnight into Monday morning, and then it stops here because it's on its short version through Monday morning, but there's this little signal for all ice. Of course, doesn't have anything down here in Texas because this is the control run, which did not do a very good job. Let me see. I'll show you what it looks like. Let's go to, that's not what I wanted. This one. All right, see, so if I look at the mean of its ensemble runs, it's a lot better on the distribution. So it's still a little bit more to the north. It kind of keeps Dallas-Fort Worth out of it, and it kind of keeps us here in Oklahoma City barely in it. So the outline isn't bad. I'd still bring it back to the south. You know, I'd do something like this. This is what I would do based off the other data. But that's just the mean value of it. If you looked at its spread, let me see here. For QPF on the mean spread, it did have some numbers that were quite high, like just for the amounts. These little numbers right here is 0.45. What is that one? 0.58, 0.48. So it liked the hot spot here and here. This is again based off the morning run data, which is what jives with everything else we saw. The new evening data should fill in this spot because that's what all the other models are doing. So we'll see what that one does overnight tonight. But anyway, so I was looking at its ensemble stuff and was like, okay, well, you're not so far off like I thought you were. You're a little bit better, but you're still not as good as you should be. So I'm disappointed. I really am. European is usually a go-to, and it's not been my go-to this week. So sorry, European. Can't win them all. Let's see. For the stars, thank you, Lauren. I just saw you in there sneaking those in, and also David. Appreciate you guys. Let me go to YouTube here real quick, and then we're gonna probably wrap this thing up. Dave on YouTube, awesome. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Boy, the weather was nice. Me and Vagine, the kids were out in it. And by kids, I mean Larry and Penelope. They were loving it after being cooped up, daring to brave the elements for the last few days. They were out there like it was 80 degrees. It was like, you wouldn't even know it was cold. So that was good to see them out there. Let's see. Be kind. You're welcome. Yeah. You don't want to try to fly out Monday morning. That would be a no-go. Robert, you are late to the party. Of course. Would I lead you astray? Same thing with you, Bridget. Nothing's changed since Sunday. So I'm going down with the ship. But I don't need to go down with the ship because the data is going with me. So that's good. The scariest part is when you go it alone and the data doesn't match you. That's when you got a problem. So you don't do that. Tim, you were late to the party. We actually showed DFW in the NAM. So, or you must be from DFW. So those guys down there are panicking right now because they probably said nothing about this event or very little. And then when the data comes out and gives them half an inch of ice, they're going to be like this. And then they're going to be freaking out. They say, well, do I tell everybody or do I wait for another run? What's the Weather Service doing? Does the Weather Service mention ice? If they mention it, it's okay. I'll mention it. If they didn't mention it, I'm not going to mention it. That's Dallas for you. So they're laying down there. But anyway, yeah, it looks like there's going to be some ice. According to the NAM model anyway, it's a nasty event. So no, it's not obviously the gospel. But you guys have been on the southern edge of even the global models this whole time. And if the NAM sticks with it, and so far everybody's sticking with it, you got to go with it. I mean, you can go against it if you want. And you better come up with a reason as to why. And if you don't have a reason as to why other than, well, just what I think or what I feel, you need to get out of the business. It's no feeling here. It's a science. So anyway, so yeah, just be prepared for right now. Yeah, that's sad. I kind of expected that down there. That's notorious, man. I don't understand that market for weather. They're so laid back and nonchalant and no big deal, and then all of a sudden it hits, and then they act like they've known about it for a long time. It's like silly. But man, when you got that many people affected, whoo, you better start saying something. All right, well, that's it for me. Of course, you guys will watch me. I might cover Dallas when something big happens. Tornadoes, ice storms, snowstorms. I'll throw you guys a bone. That way you guys have a real meteorologist feeding you some info. Anyway, I'm out. You guys have a great rest of your night. We'll do another update. So Friday lunchtime. So I'll do a lunchtime live around 11:45. And then I don't know about tomorrow night. I may skip it. May enjoy my Friday with the missus. So we'll see. But I'll definitely do you a live lunch tomorrow. And then we'll see if everything still holds and trend still holds, then should be solid. And you already know what to expect. So we'll talk again soon. You guys take care. Sleep well. See you later.